Okay. Hi, this is Michael Ellis. Um, um, I, I'm, I'm kind of, well, I'm kind of on the edge of, whether or not to publish this right now. But, I'm working out something, um, it's hard to measure, like with like a oscilloscope or with a meter, but it's an effect with with Orgonite and and other kind of electronics um, like homemade devices that I've been building that might actually be like a type of usable power source in the foreseeable future. Um, it I don't know. I don't know how to explain it really, but it's definitely something that's producing at least a tangible, like, or you can like actually feel the energy, you can feel the heat, but it's not like measurable, because obviously the equipment to do that doesn't really exist. It's more etheric, or like a metaphysical type of energy than a actual like hard electronic energy. And it's kind of like life force or chi type of energy than than electrons or protons moving around. It's like it won't charge batteries, but it'll warm up a room or something like that. So and it's not like a flame, though it'll actually on your nerves, you can feel it as a heat. So it's really weird like that, in that sense. But I'll show you. I'll show you kind of what I'm working with right now. So what we're the type of energy we're working with is what Nikola Tesla discovered, called longitudinal or dielectric energy, and this has been used in the past, throughout history, and Nikola Tesla just rediscovered it as a sort of electric phenomenon, and used it in his wireless power transmission and free energy devices that ran off the earth currents, or like the what was called the vril, or the telluric energy, um, the kind of earth energies. Today we would understand that as being a type of magnetic energy, or dielectric energy, or a paramagnetic effect, as we understand it through architecture. I don't remember the name of the author, um, but he wrote a couple books on paramagnetic energy, or paramagnetic structures and earthworks, and paramagnetism basically is what was in most of the titles of the book. And he wrote a couple books about like towers that the monks had built, or like standing stones structures, and those all ran on paramagnetic energy, and kind of concentrated or affected that. And it's the same thing, longitudinal dielectric energy. What Tesla thought the pyramids were doing, what he used for his wireless power transmission, the obelisks apparently, and standing stones, towers, the like the stone towers that ran on the that had the whatchamacallit, the like astrological alignments built into them, and all that stuff, and all that fun stuff that is mysterious um, and and that doesn't seem to be knowable without understanding of what type of technology they were using. So longitudinal dielectric energy we're talking about. We're talking about using energy in the atmosphere and the Earth that one would call magnetic resonance, as they call it at as a sort of magnetic plasma resonance, is what they call it in the electrical field, which is innately familiar with, innately tied to cold energy, or cold electricity, as they call it in fringe science. The dielectrical energy, longitudinal is, here, let me back up a little bit to describe this. Longitudinal energy is just like transverse energy. It's a waveform. Longitudinal waves are more like sound waves when they're transmitting, and they're like a radio wave. A radio wave would be considered a transverse wave. A longitudinal wave is the opposite. A radio wave looks like a snake up and down. A longitudinal wave looks like a compression back and forth. So a longitudinal wave is like a sound wave, like Nikola Tesla described it. A radio wave is like a snake. So it's more like an ocean wave. So like a sound wave, like a compression and rarefaction, like a slinky. A longitudinal wave is like a slinky. A transverse wave is like a snake, or not a snake, or like an ocean wave. So longitudinal is dielectric, and longitudinal is related to dielectric energy, and transverse is related to like standard electricity, or like conductive, or I don't know how to describe it. It's just regular electricity, basically. Non-dielectric. Can't think of the word. You have dielectric, which is like a capacitor type of energy, and then you have like ionic or something. I don't know what to say, but it's the other form, like a coil, like a coil would have. So like a conductance, or I think conductance or whatever. So then Tesla also discovered what would be called, or rediscovered what would be called cold electricity, and a bunch of other researchers rediscovered this, or dug it back up out of research. And cold electricity, Nikola Tesla called it Radian Energy. It's a type of energy that moves in wires. It's connected to the magnetism of the Earth. It's like a one-way. It's like superconductance, basically. Modern physics calls it superconductivity, but they called it cold energy, or cold electricity. And so this was like, so if you can imagine cold fusion compared to hot fusion. Cold fusion uses just like regular standard temperature electronics, and in its modern days it's called low energy nuclear reactions by NASA and the Navy. But cold fusion doesn't use high temperatures like plasmas and all that junk, like hotter than the sun. Cold fusion just uses a bottle of heavy water and stuff. So and like at room temperature, basically. Hot fusion uses the temperatures higher than the sun and magnetic, like plasma. um, magnetically contained plasma. So between cold fusion and hot fusion is like regular electricity and superconductivity. Regular electricity has like resistance and voltage, and it heats things up because it's goes against resistance. Superconductivity, as we're taught in electronics school, only occurs at super low temperatures, like Kelvin, like low Kelvin temperatures, um, in which like it becomes zero resistance, and the and can go on forever. Um, and the wires, and then you can do like supercomputing and MRIs and quantum computers and that sort of stuff. But superconductors, or superconductivity, Nikola Tesla discovered, and he called it radiant energy. Other researchers called it cold electricity because it didn't create any heating effects, and it didn't use electrons to travel through the wires. It was like kind of like a flash type of electricity, and it was like tapping into the quantum field. Let me see. What was it? I don't know. It's hard to explain. I was like tapping into the whatchamacallit. Not the quantum. Well, the quantum field, but the I don't know what to call it, but they say like in a cup of tea, there's enough, or in a teacup of space, there's enough energy to power like the whole Earth, like forever or something. Or I don't know. But you have to have the right way to tap into that vacuum space energy. And this method uses that taps into that energy, that vacuum space energy or quantum energy. And the way it does that is by using what Nikola Tesla discovered is using a spark. He used a spark gap, but we can use other means than a spark gap. But he used a spark gap, and he made it such that the energy travels in one direction, and it doesn't return or backflow at all. And that energy didn't use any electrons or anything, so you'd have a hard time measuring it, but it would obviously cause huge effects further down the line. And sorry if I'm shaking the camera. I'm like on the edge of my couch. And it would cause huge energy effects further down the wire. So yeah, it was called cold electricity because it sucked energy out of the surrounding space, and it had a cold effect. It didn't heat up the wire or anything, and you get this huge influx of energy. And it would have negative resistance, which means as it encountered a resistance, it would actually become more powerful, and stuff like that. It just a ton of cool effects you could do with it. And like air core would cause like a lightning kind of effect, like the air resistance would charge it up a lot. And that's what I'm finding with Orgonite and air gap sort of capacitors. So that leads me into to my research that I'm doing right now. So we all know that Nikola Tesla transmitted his his power wirelessly using longitudinal fields. So we have that kind of similar effect with the Orgonite. So like his antenna is similar to our Orgonite device in that it interacts with the magnetic field of the Earth. So the magnetic field of the Earth interacts with our Orgonite block, like in our Orgonite device. The Orgonite block is half metal shavings and half resin, so it's all mixed together. So it's a big block of metal shavings with resin glued together, and that creates what is called a metamaterial. And metamaterials are devices, or well, not devices, but just materials that interact with light and energy in a special way because they are composed of different materials acting together as like a super material, and they're called metamaterials, and they have specific properties because they are mixed together, kind of like molecules as opposed to atoms. But this is from molecules or materials to metamaterials. The same kind of like mixtures to pure chemicals. And then our copper tubing is like the whatchamacallit, the I'm doing mind blanks, sorry. To the transformer, I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. It's like a waveguide, basically. So it's a transformer that we pick up our energy from the metamaterial that interacts with the Earth's magnetic field, and what Tesla figured out, and the ancient civilizations figured out or knew or were told, is that the magnetic fields of the Earth travel along the surface in like waves. So you can imagine in longitudinal waves. So you can imagine like a front's coming in, like just like a thunderstorm. Front's coming in and washing over the surface like big walls that just travel along the surface of the Earth. And those are the waves that Nikola Tesla called the terrestrial waves, basically. Or actually, exactly his words were terrestrial waves moving through the ether, like sound waves, in referring to longitudinal transmission. So that's what we have our terrestrial waves, and then further explaining it in a different context, he said longitudinal waves were like sound waves in the ether. So we have these waves impacting our metamaterial, and our metamaterial is designed such that it interacts with that wave and transmits it down our antenna. So it like picks it up. So it's like a collector, I guess you would say, and picks it up and transmits it down our tube. And our tube is basically our connection source, and it has an opening in the end so it can like blast out ions or whatever to the atmosphere, and we get cool like cloudbuster effects like Wilhelm Reich was dealing with. So we take that and we put it on a air gap, 2 sheets of metal, and I just built like a little cardboard box with holes in the sides to hold the 2 plates like in a parallel, and I taped them up. And what I found was this was like steel flashing that was galvanized. What I found was that the plates being parallel with the air gap but being in like a capacitor like situation, they gave off like a heat, so they actually like warmed like the house or something, or at least it appeared that way. But there was like a biological energy coming off of them that felt like a heat. So there was some type of heat or energy building up on them and dissipating off from the orgonite to the plate. So that got me thinking. Later on, I was just kind of amazed at the heat thing, and I kind of ran with that. But later on, or more recently, I was thinking, we can't use this. I figured out very several years ago. I figured out, to much of my dismay, that you can't use this energy to charge batteries. You just can't. It's not electricity. With electrons going down wires. It's a one wire circuit, and coming off of that orgonite, and you can't build up chemical energy with it. You can only build up charge. It's like a lightning storm. You can only build up charge, like on the clouds or whatever. And Tesla loved capacitors, and he preferred them to batteries. So he'd build his big tubs with salt water and bottles, glass bottles, wrapped in foil, and he'd build his big arrays of capacitors. He loved his capacitors, and he'd use those huge capacitors for storing energy for his coil devices. So what we have here is basically a capacitor, building charge off of our orgonite device. And Wilhelm Reich, who originally worked with the Orgon Energy, claimed that his orgone accumulators and other orgone devices would charge up or deflect a electroscope, which is basically a jar with a metal knob on the end, or a bottle with a metal knob on the end that came down a piece of metal which had two foil pieces hanging off of the end inside the bottle. And when electricity or electric field charged up the or is giving off charge, basically like a static field, static electricity field, was nearby, the pieces of foil would separate because they would become charged up with similar charged electricity. Like they both became positively charged, or they both became negatively charged, and they would repel each other, and they would move, and then you would know that there was an electric field nearby. So Wilhelm Reich would claim that these electroscopes would charge in the presence of orgone energy. So so what we have here is a charging of the plates, and that gave us our weird heat effect, or the warming effect in the air gap, our little lightning storm area. So basically that's what Tesla's capacitor was, drawing energy off into the capacitor from nature, from the magnetic field, from the terrestrial waves, transferring that into charge, drawing the charge off, and charging a capacitor. So this is basically a capacitor. Now, what do we do with this? This, as you can see with Tesla's diagram,